Real-world Tosca Automation Testing. Interview questions and answers part _5. Scenario 1. Automating a web page with dynamic element IDs. Question 1. Your application generates dynamic element IDs for buttons and input fields every time the page loads. How do you handle this in Tosca? Answer. 1. Use relative XPath or CSS selectors instead of absolute locators. 2. Identify elements using neighboring stable attributes. 3. Use Tosca's Identify by Anchor feature. 4. Use regex in Xscan to handle dynamic IDs. Example. If button ID is btn_12345, use pattern like btn_** in Xscan. Scenario 2. Handling web alerts and JavaScript pop-ups. Question 2. How do you automate JavaScript alerts and confirmation pop-ups in Tosca? Answer. 1. Use tbox handle dialog module to accept or dismiss alerts. 2. If handling confirmation pop-ups, select OK or cancel dynamically. 3. Use tbox waitOn to wait for pop-ups before interacting. Example. Are you sure you want to delete? Click OK in the pop-up. Scenario 3. Automating tests with API and UI integration. Question 3. Your application has a REST API and UI. How do you ensure end-to-end automation by integrating both? Answer. 1. The first, use Tosca API Engine to send API requests. 2. Extract API response values and buffer them for UI tests. 3. Use tbox set value to enter API response data into UI fields. 4. Validate API and UI results are synchronized. Example. Fetch order status via API. Verify the same status appears on UI. Scenario 4. Automating scrolling actions in web pages. Question 4. Our test case requires scrolling to an element that is not visible initially. How do you handle this in Tosca? Answer. 1. Use tbox scroll to bring the element into view. 2. If JavaScript scrolling is needed, use tbox execute JavaScript. 3. Use action mode equals select on the element, which sometimes auto-scrolls. Example JavaScript scroll. Document.getElementById, element ID, .scroll into view. Scenario 5. Automating a web page with frames and iframes. Question 5. Your application has multiple iframes. How do you ensure elements inside the iframe are interactable? Answer. 1. Use tbox set frame to switch to the correct iframe. 2. Use Identify by parent-child relationship to locate elements inside the iframe. 3. After interacting, use tbox set frame reset to switch back. Example. Switch to payment_frame, enter card details, switch back to the main page. Scenario 6. Running the same test with different data, data-driven testing. Question 6. How do you execute a single test case multiple times with different test data in Tosca? Answer. 1. Use Tosca Test Data Service, TDS, or Excel sheets as input data sources. 2. Link test cases to Tosca templates, test sheet, for parameterization. 3. Use repetitions/iterations in execution list. Example. Login test runs 3 times with different usernames and passwords. Scenario 7. Automating image-based testing for applications with no UI identifiers. Question 7. Your application doesn't have accessible UI properties, like SAP GUI. How do you automate it in Tosca? Answer. 1. Use Tosca image-based automation, tbox image automation. 2. Use tbox OCR, optical character recognition, to extract text from the UI. 3. Validate images against baseline screenshots. Example. Verify submit button is present using OCR when UI elements are not accessible. Scenario 8. Handling auto-suggestions in search fields. Question 8. Your test case requires selecting a value from an auto suggest dropdown, like Google search. How do you automate this? Answer. 1. Type the search keyword and wait for suggestions to appear. 2. Use T-box select or keystroke to navigate through suggestions. 3. If the suggestion list is dynamic, use T-box find text and select the required value. Example. Type iPhone in the search bar, select iPhone 15 Pro from suggestions. Scenario 9. Validating data in a read-only field. Question 9. How do you verify data in a field that cannot be edited? Answer. 1. Use T-box get property to retrieve the field value. Buffer the extracted text and compare it with the expected value. Use T-box verify action mode to validate the field content. Example. Verify that order ID field displays ORD12345. Scenario 10. Capturing and verifying logs in console or log files. Question 10. Your application writes logs in a file or console. How do you automate log verification? Answer. 1. Use T-box read text file to extract log content. 2. Store log data in a buffer and validate specific keywords. 3. Use regular expressions to match patterns dynamically. Example. Verify if error, connection failed appears in app log. Scenario 11. Automating performance validation using timer functions. Question 11. How do you measure and validate the response time of an action in Tosca? Answer. 1. Use T-box start timer before executing an action. 2. Perform the action, e.g., page load, API call. 3. Use T-box stop timer and compare against SLA, service level agreement. Example. Verify login process completes within 2 seconds. Scenario 12. Automating tests in virtual machines, VMs, or remote desktops. Question 12. Your application runs on a remote desktop. How do you automate testing in a VM? Answer. 1. Use Tosca Distributed Execution, DEX, for running tests on VMs. 2. Use Tosca RDP Automation to interact with remote applications. 3. Implement OCR-based validation if UI elements are not detectable. Example. Open remote desktop login, validate application UI inside VM. Thanks for watching. Would you like 1. Hands-on exercises? 2. Mock interview questions? 3. Tosca best practices for complex automation? Let me know. Stay connected for more videos. Please like, share and subscribe.